Stock futures opened Wednesday evening with very little change as investors begin taking in corporate earnings. The top central bank officials are trying to reassure investors that the latest spike in inflation would likely prove temporary, about as temporary as death and taxes, in my opinion. The Nasdaq futures were little changed, or should I say flatlined, to stay with the death theme. Remarks on Wednesday from Fed Reserve Chair Powell called into question the strength of the economic rebound. Powell stated that the U.S. economy was still a ways off from meeting the central bank's threshold of substantial further progress in recovering. So I guess that means the party with cheap money continues. In the weekend update, we'll likely stay with the S&P 500, but what about the Nasdaq? With both the Nasdaq and the Russell 2000 marching to a different drum, today we'll spend a few minutes and look at what may be in store for the growth and tech sector. So, let's go. And today we're going to look at two charts, beginning here with the 2-year weekly chart on the Invesco QQQ Trust Series, and the symbol is QQQ. And this serves as a pretty good proxy for the Nasdaq, so we'll stick with it. From that point there, in March of 2020 up until here, we had a pretty good run, pretty straight line. Bit of volatility in here, and then another straight line run from here to there. Once again, we're into some volatility with a cycle taking hold here, down, back up, down, and we're in an upswing here, and I think we're heading toward a temporary top, such as here and here. And again, there's that word temporary. Moving on down into the volume, not much you can tell from there, but see here in the MAC, you can see the cycling going on from this top here, cycle down with the fast line, back on up, gets reflected back down, comes back here, gains some steam, and it's rolling on through. But even though it's come through the slow line, which is the red line, I would anticipate a bit of a top here, at least a hesitation. Into the histogram, you can see pretty much the same thing, but it is gaining some strength, as you can see here. Moving on down into the price rate of change. Now, this oscillator shows a bit of a top occurring here, and we'll see how far this goes down. If it does, I think it will. Maybe come on down here before another cycle move. Into the relative strength index, we're at a relatively strong 80.59. But once again, we don't get up to this area too often, so I think we might get reflected back here and head on down back to that 50 or midline. Into the stochastics, I think you can see the same thing. We're kind of mature up here in this overbought territory above that 80 level, and the fast line is getting close to the slow line, and I think it may roll over. And I don't think really that's all that significantly negative. It's just the nature of cycles. And here we are into the Williams, pretty much the same thing. Back up here to the price chart. One last look at that. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the daily chart. And now we're looking at the 1-year daily chart on the QQQ. And looking at the price chart, I think you can see the volatility or the cycling with better detail. Moving on down here, back on up and down and up into an extended cycle. But I think extended or not, we're reaching a peak. I think the probability is that we're reaching a peak. You'll see in the oscillators once we move down. And I think we're just going to head back down again. And there's nothing abnormal about the market. It's just, I think, a normal evolution in a cycling. The volume's not going to show you too much here into the MAC, though. You can see once again the cycles all the way through here, up and down, up and down. And we're within a relatively decent range of that zero line, up above and down below that. So I think everything pretty much is balanced, and that's what you like to see. That helps you predict these cycles much better, and then your buy and sell points, if that's what you're going to do. Right now is not a time to buy. because it looks like the probabilities are that we're going to head on down in another cycle. Again, nothing wrong. It's just the natural evolution of the cycles in a relatively balanced market. So moving on, up, down, and up. And then I think we're heading on down again. You can see that in these other oscillators, such as the price rate of change. And here into the relative strength index, we're at 80.57. And you can see once we get up to these levels, such as back here, here, and here, we don't stay up here very long. So it's time to cycle back on down. And that's also shown by the stochastics and the Williams as well. This is a little bit more difficult to see, but I think you can put it together pretty easily, cycling up and down. And we're in an extended period here, but I think it's probably time to head on back down. Very natural, symmetrical cycling. Back up here to the price chart, one last look. So I think the probabilities are is that we're heading to a peak here, and I think soon enough in the next week or two, we should probably be heading on down. Again, nothing abnormal, just a natural cycle. Now, this is not the time to deploy cash, being that we're at a top or potentially at a top. Wait for that cycle to bottom and base and pick your opportunities. And for today, that's ChewDog Charts. Thank you.